Hey guys, it's Retro. Here is what I played this league, the Molten Strike of the Zenith by Connor Converse. This is my first build review and I'm not an expert. It's a crazy strong build. As you can see, I take out Uber Eater fairly easy. This build has damage and gets way more tankier as you keep investing into it. Next, I kill the Uber Searing Exarch for the first time. I would say my build is squishy sometimes still. And I can run T17 Ziggurat, mostly any modifier, and with some risk scarabs as well. I don't die too often running T17 maps, and I had a lot of fun seeing my damage just keep getting higher, and also just getting tankier with every upgrade. I transitioned into the Chaos damage with Alberons. I could have taken this build a lot more farther, but I stopped playing a lot during the middle of the league. I also failed 3 times on my Simplex Mistcraft, so I gave up on it. But I still ended up getting 2170 strength. I also wouldn't recommend league starting this build. It was very tough for me, very slow to get online. Other builds have a way smoother league start, but once you do, you feel like a god and almost unlimited potential. I really think you guys should try this build by Connor, but let's talk a little bit about this build. So I believe I invested around 700 to 800 div into this build with the current gear. It was tough to get the exact calculations, especially with not many items listed towards the end of the league. Also, if you want to watch me kill the Searing Exarch, then keep watching. Otherwise, click on the next chapter of the video where we talk about the exact items used.
The fires of 1,000 suns. Is that all you have? Annihilation. Incineration. Improbable.
So here is an overview of the gear I have. The Chaos Sword, preferably a Reaver Sword, because it has the highest attack speed base. I did not have one, by the way, but it costs around 125 div. The enchantment is done with power runes. It's why the sword is so expensive. Next, moving on to the Alberon boots. They're around 20 div. It will amplify our chaos damage from our strength stacking. Must have during this chaos transition. Next is the Cogwork Ring. It costs roughly 200 div, so try to get some life on it and hit resistances where you're not capped or lacking. Next is the Crown of Eyes. It costs 20 div. Use the costs and reservations so we can have all of our auras up. Next is the Belt. It costs around 50 div. You get tons of strength from the belt. You can fill out other res to help you get to cap. Next is the Iron Fortress, our chest plate. It's 25 div, helps give spell block and provides 1% maximum res with the corruption. Next is the Synthesized Amulet. It's 75 div roughly. The next step after this would be get your Simplex. Next, we're going over the gloves. They're around 100 div, so make sure to get the non-Val strike skills, strike at 2 additional enemies. It makes playing the build much more comfier. Next, we're talking about the Calandra's Touch. It's very simple. It's really just 6 div. It mirrors our 200 div ring. Next, we are going over our flask. We use the triple Ellie flask as this will increase our max res and cover any res you don't have capped. But you should have all capped by now. I also take the Onslaught flask with reduced curse effect. But you can also take a look at everything in the POB, as I'm not going to go over everything. But moving on to the jewels, we have the Emperor Prismatic Jewel. It costs around 78 div. It will increase our max life and will increase attributes by 5 to 7% and our global defenses by 5% as well. Next, we're moving on to our cluster jewels. They cost 5 div each, allocating martial prowess and mastery, huge DPS increase and attack speed. Next is the Watcher's Eye. It's 10 div for the reduced critical strike damage. It's very important to have, and the 8% fizz damage isn't a requirement. Next, we're going to talk about the Lethal Pride. I got mine for 15 div. It came with a lot of fire res. I would shoot for a jewel that has res so you can hit cap. And you also want to take at least 2 strength nodes Then you are going to look at your split personalities. They're super helpful. It helps hit the gear and gem attribute requirements. Gives you 130 to your strength, which gives us a lot of damage, health, and spell block because of the strength. The total build's around 700 to 800 div. Next, all the gems that I'm using are in the POB, so you can just look there for them. But the most expensive one is the Awaken Projectiles. It sits at around 34 div. But overall, I had a lot of fun playing this build. I recommend it to you guys to try it sometime if we actually do cycle between POE 1 and 2. So this is not a build guide by any means, just really want to show you guys what I played and my experience that I had. And if you have any questions about the build or suggestions, please leave down in the comments. I will link Connor's channel down below as he created the build. Also, please leave down your favorite build recommendations or what you played this league as well. Have a great day, guys.